When I first came to Atlanta as a young student, and I asked everybody, who's the person that you need to talk to get to know everybody in Atlanta, I was told it was Mr. Tommy Dortch.
I'm Andrew Young, and I've always been a supporter of the Black College Hall of Fame. And I thought it was a wonderful idea when Thomas Dortch first mentioned it. From the moment he came here, he took a strong leadership role in trying to support and promote the historically Black colleges and universities.
He wanted to strengthen the sustainability of HBCUs around the country. He had already done that with the state institutions.
ThomasWDortchJr., affectionately known as Tommy, and I have known each other for quite a long time. We have been married almost 40 years, and we met down at his office when he was working for Sam Nunn, Senator Sam Nunn.
He was so dedicated that when I realized he was about to get married and he was looking for, well, he was asking me to marry him and said that they didn't want a big wedding. I said, well, just come to my house and my wife and I will perform the ceremony, and you and Carol can live happily ever after.
I came to know Tommy, and the nature of our relationship, at least in my perspective, was certainly that of an admirer. You could not meet him and not love him immediately, whether it was his smile or his energy or his commitment really to future generations.
We met somewhere around my junior year at Fort Valley State University. Tommy was very active in the Student Government Association and in politics on the campus.
We both went to HBCUs, Tommy going to Fort Valley University, and I went to Morehouse College, and while we were there, Tommy became the student body president of Fort Valley, and I became student body president at Morehouse. And then he went on to work for U.S. Senator Sam Nunn, and I worked for U.S. Senator Russell Long. So our paths have been kind of aligned throughout our early childhood and working, and then in adulthood, we really came together as part of the leadership team for the 100 Black Men of Atlanta. And then when Nate Golston's term ended, Tommy became the national chairman, and I served as his vice chair for development for the 10-year period that he served during his first term.
He went to great lengths to really solidify a large part of Delta's relationship with the African American community here in Atlanta through a genuine interest in really speaking with us and our genuine interest in hearing from him.
You know, he actually established this platform of the 104 for the future around mentoring, education, health and wellness, and economic empowerment. But those 4 pillars were not just the pillars for the 100. They were actually pillars that Tommy lived and meant for his personal life as well.
Those of us who had the pleasure of spending time with Tommy, and for me, spending a lot of time with Tommy, know that we can't drop the baton that he has handed off to us, so many of us, in his fight to make sure that not only relevance, for sure, remain a part of the continuing legacy of HBCUs.
In 2008, Delta had recently emerged from Chapter 11, and the 100 did an event honoring Jerry Grinstein, our CEO at the time, as well as Delta, for having weathered the storm and coming out of Chapter 11 and given the prominent role that we play in business here in Atlanta. And the 100 did an event down at one of the major hotels in downtown Atlanta. And I remember walking in there, and I walked into a ballroom, as you might imagine. It's an event of the 100, filled with Black people. And as a white person, I had never walked into that highly concentrated and that large an audience of African American people. And it hit me for the first time that that's got to be what all too often African American people feel walking into a conference room of largely, if not dominantly, white people. And the first person who came over to me, and I am certain sensed my uneasiness at having gone through this kind of epiphany, was Tommy Dortch. And he held out his hand and he introduced himself, and I'll never forget that moment. And I've always tried to dedicate myself to be somebody who looks for that sense among somebody who's in a minority in any form, walking in, kind of closes those gaps, who speaks and welcomes. And Tommy's behavior and his welcoming to me that night, I literally will never forget. There were probably 10 of us from Delta. If I recall correctly, virtually every single one of us white. And here you had 600-800 African Americans welcoming us, making us feel like we belonged there in ways that unfortunately I'm not sure white people over the past 400 years have done similarly. And I'll never forget.
Tommy and I worked on so many different things together. As I mentioned, I first met him sitting on the board of another Black professional association. And then Tommy actually had me join several other boards in the Atlanta area, but organizations that were worldwide had me join the board of directors with him on at least 3 other Atlanta-based African-American boards. And frankly, Tommy is the one who took me into the 100 Black Men of America and also Omega Psi Phi fraternity. And so our friendship and his mentorship of me extended across many organizations and many, many projects.
I am so proud of the collaborations that Tommy and I had. I was George, he was Tommy. We laid aside the chairman and the president, we were friends. One of the most recent initiatives through which we collaborated was the ThomasWDortchJr. Institute here on the campus of Clark Atlanta University. We collaborate in the community, we've collaborated on real estate projects, but most importantly, we've collaborated in building historically Black colleges and universities. That's what we do. We did it all the way until the end, and we will continue his great work.
I think of the life that Thomas Dortch lived. Plant seeds to trees for the shade you may never see, and certainly he planted a lot of seeds.
Tommy was a visionary. Everybody knew that. He was constantly working to try to make things better in this community. And one of the things that I think that he was so successful in doing in so many ways was the lecture series that we did at historically Black colleges and universities.
The list of awards he has, he probably need to have 2 rooms in his house just for all the awards he's receiving, and he's done them all. I can't talk about my success as a businessman without including Tommy Dortch as a mentor. But that's what Tommy was about. He was always calling for the other person and helping out the little guy or the little girl.
Everybody can get a seat at the table. That's what Tommy Dortch was all about.
He was a giving person. He always wanted to give to others.
Tommy is among that great cloud of witnesses. And I can't wait to get home to see my friend again one day.
We all owe him a huge debt. We do. I don't know anybody else like him. I've never known anybody else like him.
He was a unifier, and Lord knows we need more of those types of people today, and it makes us all 95,000 of us here at Delta, but certainly every member of my family and everyone who I think had the privilege of meeting Tommy, miss him that much more.
Tommy had so much energy and passion. As he said during his last days, he wanted to go out empty, and he wanted to pour out whatever strength and every ounce of energy he had left to do good for this community.
It's a high bar to clear, but with the love of their mother and the inspiration of their father, I think we're going to have several generations that make us proud.
I will share that I spent some of the final hours of Tommy's life with Tommy, with Carol, with his children, his grandchildren. And what I can tell you is that he was still giving until the very, very, very end. He was still giving. He was still concerned about people. He was still asking people who came to visit him, how are you? How are you doing? What are you doing? And I will tell you that he squeezed every bit of life out of his being. He never gave up until the very, very end when he didn't have breath. And he ran that race. He ran it with determination, with vision, tenacity, and very much so love of people. And for that, we should all be grateful. We should all be grateful. We should all be grateful.
This has been a phenomenal time for us to really celebrate some of the greatest graduates of any college or university in this country, and particularly our graduates of historical Black colleges and universities. And remember that not only by COVID-19, but ongoing, we have been disproportionately impacted by preconditions like diabetes, like high blood pressure, again, obesity. These factors have made a difference, a negative difference in our lives, in our community. And the 100 has been fighting for years, even when we created the Prostate Cancer Coalition back in 1995, until today as we deal with all of the various cancers that are impacting us. It's on us. We must make a difference, and the 100 must continue to be a leader in ensuring that we have healthy communities.